This is such an important topic. I love talking about this.
Because this is the whole point, isn't it? The whole point is that we are here to make the world a better place.
So put your pork chops on. Let's marinate in this topic a little bit.
Leadership can look different for different people. Leadership doesn't always look like hosting a podcast. Leadership doesn't always look like being a manager. I'm the manager and we're going to do this. I'm keeping everybody. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. I always say you're never not marketing. But did you know that you're never not leading? That you indeed are an amazing leader in your space. If you don't believe me, ask Ashley. That's why she's here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shauna. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic. I love talking about this because there is a leader within each and every one of us. And that was a journey I had to go on myself to uncover. After being told for years throughout school that I talk too much, I'm really grateful that I actually get to do this for a living now. And it's something that I love helping other women to be able to discover about themselves, that we do have a voice, we have something important to say, and that part of that is the way that we use that to show up in this world, to lead ourselves, to lead our teams, to lead our families, our communities, and the world around us.
I couldn't have said it better myself, because this is the whole point, isn't it? The whole point is that we are here to make the world a better place. And in so doing, we need to lead. And leadership can look different for different people. Leadership doesn't always look like hosting a podcast. Leadership doesn't always look like being a manager. I'm the manager and we're going to do this. I'm keeping everybody. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. So with you being the expert in leadership, I'd like you to kind of give people some perspective into what leadership might look like at grand scale, for sure, but then also on the day-to-day scale. What does that look like as well?
This is such a great question, Shauna, because I think it's one that we don't spend enough time exploring and talking about, and really just, I always like to say marinating, like I'm some kind of cut of meat. It's like I'm marinating on this topic.
I'm here for it. Listen, I'm ready for my pork chops tonight, okay?
That's right. That's right. That's right. So put your pork chops on. Let's marinate in this topic a little bit. So on the grand scale, when we think of leader, when we think of leadership, we generally think of someone who is in charge of other people, right? We also think of people who are in charge of organizations or in charge of companies, but we don't usually think about those people who are leading volunteer efforts in their local communities. We don't think about the people who are leading their families. We talk a lot about the role of moms at home, and I'm not a mom myself, but I have lots of mom clients, lots of mom friends, lots of mom family members. And one thing that I always want to make sure that I call out to them is that you are leading little hearts and little minds every single day. And that is one of the most precious opportunities to step into a leadership role. It's also one of the most challenging. And so leadership isn't this, grandiose idea of I'm in charge of 3,000 people or I'm in charge of 500 people. Personally, I've led 350 people. It is no cakewalk, y'all, seriously. But, it's also, did I have a conversation with someone where I showed up as a leader? Because that might just be a one-on-one conversation that you had one day with a mentor or a mentee. It might be a conversation you had with a friend where you were able to share some wisdom or some guidance. Every way that we can show up is important. And we have to think about the ways that we have access to be a leader.
And that's such a good point. And you made so many great examples. One thing that came up to me that you didn't mention that I'm based on what you've described, I'm 99.9% sure we're on board with, is the idea that you don't necessarily have to have had the conversation with someone or had that like interaction with an individual or a group of people. Being a role model is in effect being a leader. So somebody you could be, and I say this about marketing all the time, right? This idea that like when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say to yourself? Who's watching?
Yes.
Maybe nobody, but also you are. And
Mhm.
the science shows that your brain decides things about yourself based on what it sees.
Mhm.
So like you can like try to pretend to think a certain way or whatever and try to the best way to do it, even if you don't believe it yet. And this is why affirmations work.
Mhm.
Even if you don't believe it yet, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I am going to kill this job interview or whatever,
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
brain's like, oh yeah, she's got this.
Yeah, we are. We're
Just
doing it.
do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So if you show up every day and you say, "I am a leader,"
then
what are opportunities? What are accesses that I can show up as a leader today? I bet you're gonna find them.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And that same thing goes to you're in a grocery store
Mhm.
and there's an issue with the till and things are taking a little longer than they need to. And then how are you going to behave? How are you going to react?
Mhm.
Because there
Mhm.
are people watching. There are people
Mhm.
who are going to learn. And this is marketing. This is leadership.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
People are going to learn what is okay and what's not okay.
Yeah. But I love too just the conversation around marketing because, um, when we market our businesses through whatever platform, through whatever venue, through whatever method makes the most sense for you and your business, every single piece of that is you showing up as a leader. It's as a thought leader, it's as a leader in your industry, as a creative person, as a professional, as whatever that is, because people are coming to you trusting that you've got the goods, you've got the knowledge, the experience, the skill set, the education, the training, the whatever. And when we lead through our marketing, we allow people to have the agency to choose us, to choose to follow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then when we take leadership and marketing and we get them to merge, which they ought to,
Mhm,
P.S. Everyone, um, this is where you and I in particular we start talking
mhm,
about inclusivity and
mhm,
representation and how it matters.
mhm,
And so when we're talking about making sure that all people have a representation in a leadership role, that people are able to not just act on that like within the structures of society, but also feel it within
mhm,
themselves. This makes a
mhm.
difference.
Oh, it makes such a difference. And that's one of the things that if you say as a leader, I am an inclusive leader, but then your marketing doesn't represent that in any way, shape, or form, whether it's through visuals, whether it's through the words you use on your sales page copy or your website or your social media channels, then that's incongruent. And people don't follow incongruent leaders. They follow leaders that have integrity and alignment and they lead with their values. And so if you're feeling like there's a little disconnect between you and your marketing, look at your values and look at the marketing messages you're putting out there because I promise there's probably a little disconnect happening.
I absolutely love this idea where we always start every single time is with branding. And
Mhm.
within that branding umbrella, and when I say branding, I don't mean like your colors and your fonts, even though we've had this conversation and your branding, those parts of it, the visual branding does
Mhm.
need to align. Um, but when I talk about it, I'm talking about, as you said, your values, your
Mhm.
messaging, and how does that effectively represent you, who you are, your branding. And then when you're putting it out into the world, that's when we start getting into the marketing side of it.
Mhm.
And if you haven't really rooted yourself in your branding, your messaging is not going to land. It
Yeah.
simply isn't. And so we need to make sure that we're using our leadership, our branding, our marketing as business owners, as women, as leaders
Mhm.
in a way that's actually going to make the world a better place, as I said at the beginning.
Mhm.
So what would you say is like a kind of a reflective step that we need to kind of think about moving forward as business owners, as leaders, in order to create the space that we aspire for, like, to create that
Mhm.
positive change in the world?
Yeah. So a lot of times people spend a lot of energy figuring out who their ideal client is and how they're going to reach them and how they're going to speak to them. But if you take some time in the beginning to think about what kind of leader do I want to be in this space, whether or not you're going to have a team of employees, you might be solo flying forever. That is a valid choice. But you still are going to be a leader. You're going to be a leader for your clients. You're going to be a leader for your audience. You can be a leader within your industry. And so we have to spend time thinking about who am I as a leader and who am I becoming? Because we're not just static beings. We're always evolving and growing and we should have things that we're aspiring to. Maybe you want to have a stronger voice for creating an inclusive and welcoming business? What does that look like? What kind of actions would you take if you were fully in that role, in that space right now? And so create yourself not just a set of values for your business, but a set of leadership values for yourself. What's important to me? I always, always, always come back to integrity. That's one of my biggest core values. Does this feel in alignment with who I am and who I'm becoming? Is this the person that I want to show up in the world as? Would the future version of myself that I envision say this, do this, act in this way, put this message out there? And if they don't, maybe I need to pause and take a moment to think about that. And so for me, when we think about like our marketing materials and things that we're putting out into the world on our website and our socials and our email newsletters, if I wouldn't say that in real life to someone, I'm not going to put it on the internet.
Absolutely. It's funny because at the end of our recording, I always tell everybody, hey, we're gonna close this off. I'm gonna stop recording, but you need to know that it still records for a couple seconds before it actually stops. And I always say that because I don't want anybody to present themselves in a way that maybe they don't want to. Like, if let's say we had this conversation and you were like, I feel like I totally dropped the ball, this was horrible, and then I pressed and I'm like, okay, and scene, but it's still recording. You go, mother, like, we don't want that. So what you say is true. You have to really
Mhm,
think, am I acting in alignment with who I am and who I am
mhm,
becoming? Because we
mhm.
are an ever evolving piece of art.
Yeah.
um who and you've mentioned too about inclusivity, and I think you may have said the word voice, and that
Mm,
triggered something in me because I thought, oh my goodness, I've had so many conversations with people about how my job is to
mhm,
elevate people's voices. I work with women because a lot of times we really are given that proverbial, that's nice, dear, and then
yes.
you go
Pat
sit in
on
the
the
corner.
head.
My own grandmother, who is 88 at the
Mhm,
time of this recording, has said that she's experienced that her entire life and she still does.
mhm,
Can you imagine how much experience, wisdom,
mm,
expertise an 88-year-old has?
mhm.
And they still pat her on the head and send her into a corner somewhere. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
So this is where I think leadership can evolve in and of itself
Mhm, mhm.
into advocacy.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that you touch on, and I want to hear
Mm.
your point of view when it comes to leadership as a form of or advocacy and leadership and how they hold
Mhm.
hands.
Yeah, I love this question, Shauna, and it's something that I've been exploring myself for several years now. And I think advocacy is one of those journeys that we go on. You don't come out of the gate being a perfect advocate or a perfect ally or having a perfect message. And I have stuck my foot in my mouth plenty of times, but you don't learn how to use your voice by staying silent. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say that again because I feel like that was really powerful, and I probably need to put that in my copy somewhere. You don't learn how to use your voice by staying silent. And so that's the biggest lesson I've learned about leadership and my own advocacy journey is you say something and you start small, but you say something.
Mm-hmm.
You have a belief or you have some situation, some social or justice related situation that you're like, that's not right. And if you're feeling that pull, that tug in your heart that something's not right, that's a cue to you that you could be an advocate in that way. And you could use your voice. And your voice may not be your physical voice. It may not just be the words that you say. It might be that you join an organization and you help to organize because you're really great at organizing and pulling people together and getting all the details meshed out. That is not my gig. You might be
So
someone who
your voice
shows
can
up.
also be we can call your voice in this circumstance as a
Mhm,
leader, as an advocate.
mhm,
Your voice is synonymous with your choices,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
The choice of what you action upon. And
yeah.
actually, I'm glad you said that because something came up to me when you were talking about using your voice, and I loved what you said, and I absolutely think you should write it down. You'll get this copy, don't worry. Um, it's beautiful, and sometimes you learn how to use your voice more effectively
Mhm.
when you listen.
Oh,
Because
100%.
I don't know the story of a BIPOC woman. I don't.
Mm-mm,
I
mm-mm,
don't know that story. I can't live that story. I would
mhm,
like to advocate in that space. I
mhm,
do advocate in that space
mhm,
within the context of what I do know.
mhm.
But my most effective tool for that is to support the person who does know.
Mhm.
And
100%.
that's where our choices and our actions need to align. It's not always our
Yeah.
voice literally,
Mhm.
but we're lending our support through our
Yeah.
choices and actions.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that while I would not, you know, preach at the choir, so to say, I can take that message back and I can preach to the people that are like me. So other cis white women, right? Like that might be my audience where I use my voice to say, hey, here are some things I'm learning. Here are some experts that you could also follow to learn from and to get more experience. And that's an avenue. That's a way that we can use our voice. And again, we can use our voice in so many ways. Maybe we're not the talking head of that organization, but we might be the organizer. We might be the person creating the Canva graphics behind the scene. We might be the person who's showing up at the protest, holding the sign. That is all a form of using your voice in various different ways and stepping into your own leadership and your own advocacy. One of the ways that I do, my own advocacy work is I actually sing in a community choir. It's an LGBTQ community choir, and it's all about lifting the voices of a very marginalized community. And so I'm always like, promoting the choir and pushing it out there and talking about it and sharing about it on social media. But I don't ever want to necessarily be the face of the choir. Like I stand in the choir, I sing in the choir, exactly. But I'm not the person whose voice needs to be amplified or lifted. I'm the person that's behind the scenes helping. And so I do a lot of the social media content and I'm recording things and putting stuff out. And so that's a way to use my voice without centering myself, without centering my voice,
Yeah,
and while supporting a community that needs that love and support and safety. And something I talked about just the other day was that sometimes we have to use our voices when it's not safe for a marginalized individual to use their voices.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that you touch on a really good point. And I'm just going to bring this right back around to marketing,
Mhm.
like the tactical, practical
Mhm.
began marketing. Because if your brand and your marketing are done well, you're not centering yourself.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to drop that there.
Love that. Love
Right?
that marketing bomb.
That.
Because it's all about the client, right? It's about the person on the receiving end.
And not and yes, it's about your client, but it also, I'm always about, and I don't want to overcomplicate the situation, but it all depends on what your goals are within your marketing
Mhm.
context, because
Mhm.
it's about your client when it comes to sales conversions, but
Mhm.
it's also about your audience and the people who
Mhm.
you are supporting en masse as well.
Yeah.
And so I've got to kind of navigate that space. How am I showing up in a
Mhm.
way that will not center myself,
Mhm.
but I'm there, right?
Mhm.
If you know, I wonder if I've got it here. Yep. Hold on, guys. I got you. Just give me a minute. Oh, there's me. I'm falling now.
I
See?
feel like I know what book you're pulling. I love your caricature. It's so beautiful.
They did such a good job. I'm so happy with it. I had to put it up. Anyways, this guy.
I knew it. I knew it. I have
Yeah,
it on my shelf too. I don't know where mine is, but it's back there
I
somewhere.
barely found mine. But this, guys, if you need to know about not centering yourself while
Mhm,
elevating yourself as
mhm,
as a leader, as an advocate,
mhm,
as a business professional, as an authority, and getting the people around you, whether they're
mhm,
your audience, your ideal client,
mhm,
etc., to really rally, make a choice, and take action with you, start a movement per se, you're going to want to read Building a Story Brand, Donald Miller. This is all backwards to you probably, but that's all right. It's good. Um, I highly suggest this. In fact, I send
mhm.
this to my clients oftentimes. I go on
Yeah.
the things and I send it off because it's such a good. There's also a video. I may or may not drop it in the show notes. Now that we've talked about it, there's like a 10-minute overview video that I share with my clients as well.
Mhm.
I'll drop that in the show notes and share it with you guys. Yeah.
It's such
Okay.
a great
I
book.
feel like that was a full circle. I've got to pause it because honestly, Ashley, you and I could chat
Yeah.
all day. So, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually ask you, Ashley, a big
Mhm,
question. I'm gonna ask you. I know we talked about a lot,
mhm, mhm,
like a lot,
mhm.
but I'm gonna ask you to think about one takeaway, one thing that our audience needs to hear to carry with them or to take action on, or some combination
Mhm,
moving forward. But I'm gonna let you think about it for a moment because I want to remind our audience that we have these conversations every single week. And these conversations are not just for the benefit of myself and Ashley. Like, we could just chat. We could just go and shoot the shit and have a great old time just together. We purposefully record it for you, to include you. We want to know what you have to say. We want you to raise your voice, and we want you to join us for future conversations. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you know when the next conversation is coming out, and leave a comment to let us know what you think. What do you want to hear about next? Now, with that, I'll get off my soapbox, and I'm going to give Ashley the scene. The scene? Yeah, you got the scene.
I'll take the scene. I got it now. So the thing that I would want you to walk away from today with our conversation is that I promise that you are a leader somewhere in your life. And the thing that you need to do is look in the mirror, as Shauna said, and say those words to yourself. I am a leader. Or you could even ask yourself a question: where can I be a leader today? It may be one conversation. It may be in a room full of people. It may be with a team. It may be with your children. It may be with your community. But wherever you're showing up, where can you show up in full integrity with who you are and who you are becoming? And if you want to connect with me and learn how to become a more courageous and confident leader and really own your voice, you can just click this little QR code here, take you right to my website where it's all about you.
Perfect. I love it. Oh my goodness. And I literally had to breathe when you were saying that. I had to take a breath in and out, because it just felt like that was something that needed to be received. And I hope that you all were able to receive that as well. With that, I will let you enjoy the rest of your day. And if you need to reach out to Ashley or myself, you can find both of our what is it called? Websites. You can find both of our websites in the show notes. Hit us up. You can tell we're not going to bite. We might be a little silly at times, but we have a good time doing it. So you guys all have a great rest of your day, and we will chat soon.